Welcome to the Down South Hunting Podcast, presented to you by the onX Hunt app. And back with us is Adam Cruz. I'm really excited to have you back on again, Adam.
Man, it feels like it's been a while. I honestly don't even remember the last time we podcasted together.
I don't either. We've been so busy we haven't been able to talk that much. So Happy New Year.
A Happy New Year to you as well.
Yeah, it's only February now.
You've been to the ATA. I mean, you're still in the deer season, right?
Yes, I got a hunt. I'm going hunting this weekend for a hog, and
of course you are.
Small game season.
No
you know
deer?
what I'm thinking? My season's been so bad. I might just shoot a squirrel. You know, it's small game season. Gotta put some meat on the table. Might just be a squirrel.
New year, new you, man.
That's right.
It happens. It happens to the best of us.
But I'm pretty excited. I got a pretty good hunt still coming up. So, could still make it happen. I got a big old empty freezer, so I need to do something.
So when you say you have a hunt coming up, does that mean you just have time to decide to go hunting, or do you have actually a quota hunt that you can go on?
I have a quota hunt, a draw hunt, muzzleloader.
Nice.
So, I got a few bucks on camera out there. I got a cell phone camera, and then I got three more cameras that I had just soaking out there. I haven't even checked them yet. I haven't figured out what my strategy is going to be for that yet. I think I'm just going to check them on my way in. I'm going to try to keep the area untouched. The only thing is, I have a cell cam that's like kind of on the entrance to that area. And if I'm getting tons of people in there on that cell cam, maybe I'll just bust in there anyway. I don't know.
How much pressure does this place get? I mean, is this like a special quota hunt where this place hasn't been hunted because, it's quota hunt only, or has it been open to the public and this is just special quota for muzzleloader?
Well, I'm totally going to be giving away where I'm hunting if somebody really wants to do some research.
Of course we would.
But that's cool. If somebody wants to do that much work to figure it out, then you should just send me a message or something and we can talk about it. But it's for small game season. It's open for a couple weeks, but it's only open for one weekend for an archery hunt and one weekend for a muzzleloader hunt. So, but there gets to be with the small game, it's open for a couple weeks before that. So there is pressure. Where I'm hunting on this area, I don't think there's going to be much pressure. So, I don't mind. So, I mean, it's a hard draw to get. So if somebody wants to wait the time and get the draw, then I'm all for everybody getting hard to get hunts that are good hunts. And, I haven't killed anything yet, so maybe it's not worth it. But where I'm hunting is actually, it's like on an island. And I guess, man, we're just getting into the podcast here, but
right to the point. I like it.
Where my cameras are is on an island. And I hunted this area a couple years ago, and I found this island I could get out to. And I thought, I'd probably have it all to myself. So like I said, I put some cameras out there. So I got there a couple months ago to put cameras out, and I couldn't believe it. When I got out there, there was already some cameras hung on this, it's probably 10-acre area. And you got to walk through, I'm going to say a quarter mile of just water. It's a further walk than that, but just water. You got to walk through a quarter mile of it.
Walking on water like Peter, or walking through swamp?
Walking through swamp. Yeah.
Just checking.
And if you go off of the trail, it's probably waist deep, but there's a way you can walk out there. So I couldn't believe it. So what I did is I put my phone number on my phone, typed it in, and said, text me. And I held it up in front of the game cameras that are already there. And lo and behold, a few weeks later, I get a text. And it turns out to be the guy I hunted this area with last time I was there. So he happened to get the same draw I did and had the same place in mind. So we're going to coordinate some. We're not hunting together this time, but we'll coordinate. So the thing is, it's like a 10-acre island. We're not both going to be hunting this thing. So I don't know how we're going to do it.
Well, I mean, if it's 10 acres, is there a way that one of you can drive deer onto the other one? Draw short straw?
We're in Florida. We might be driving the deer. the one that might be out there. There's not like these pockets of like all these deer that are out there. We're looking for like the one that lives in an area. So,
well, you were talking like super secret squirrel about the place. It's not like you're in Kansas, so I don't think too many people are trying to figure it out. Honestly, I might be wrong. We do have a lot of listeners in Florida now.
Yeah, well, I think the people that hunt Florida public land, this is what we got to hunt, so we're looking for the best one out of it. So.
So you're on the best one. Now you're really giving it away.
No, I said people are looking for the best one.
Oh, okay. However you want to spend it, man.
Now, if I shoot a 120-inch buck out of there, then maybe. So, I don't know if we talked about this. I had a hunt up in North Florida earlier this year, and I had a stud on camera. And it was with my cell camera that I didn't have. It turns out these cell cameras, you actually have to like pay for the service to get the camera, this picture sent to you.
Dang it, man.
Yeah. So I called. Oh, you know what it was? So it's a Bushnell Aggressor camera, and the first one I got was a dud. So it didn't really work. So I called Bushnell. They had me send them a new camera out. And as soon as I got the new one in, this is the end of last year, I tested the thing out, make sure it worked, which apparently it did. And I used up my whole trial period, which I did not remember doing. So this year when I set it up, I thought, I should have my trial period and everything should all be good to go. So it didn't work the first time I sent it out, obviously. I like reconfigured it. I called customer service and he's like, yeah, well, you used your time period up. But they gave me another free month. So now I have it out and it's working. But when I had it out in this area that was not working, I got this stud buck on it 2-3 times in a week period. And somebody else got it like the second night of the hunt. And it was, I guess I'm bad at scoring bucks. So but I'm going to say it was like a 130, which for Florida is really good.
I don't think I'm horrible at scoring, and I can barely remember this deer, but I was thinking it would definitely go 130 better.
Yeah.
It was really an awesome buck anywhere.
But everything else was, it was tall and wide and good time length, good mass. It was a stud.
Yeah, I'm shooting that buck anywhere, man.
Yeah, me too. I'm shooting anything that's legal at this point, I think.
Hey, new year, new you, man.
Yeah.
Keep on with it.
Hey, so I needed to get back together so we could kind of do a season summary, even though my season's not up. So we kind of covered what I got left. But your season's over, correct?
Oh, I'm completely over. Yeah, I'm doing some postseason scouting now, so way behind.
Yeah. So I even went back and I listened to our season preview episode.
Oh, no.
So we could kind of touch back on some of the things we went over and some of the goals and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to do that. I should have done the same thing.
It's all good because I did it. I did it for us, man.
Yeah.
And my season preview wasn't that exciting, so we'll mostly talk about yours anyway. My season's not even over. So I'm doing that same hunt I did last with the hog. I'm doing the same one I did with some buddies last year, which is pretty fun, where we did the hog drive. So got another first time hunter going with us, so it's gonna be fun, and hopefully we get some more meat. I definitely want to share some of it. I want to get some for myself for sure.
Yeah, man. I don't know that. Well, I've never been hog hunting, so I've never had any kind of wild hog that was from me or my friends. I think I've had some at like a church. What do you call those things? The banquets.
Well, there's potluck, but that's probably not what you're talking about.
No, we do that, but that's usually fried chicken and barbecue. That's what we do have at my church. Yeah. Oh, wild game banquet. There we go.
Oh, okay. I've never done with it. We don't have those in Florida.
Dude, those things are so awesome. I've only been to a few, but like the variety of meat that you're able to get is it's unbelievable. The show that they put on, as far as that's concerned, is just really cool.
Okay, but when you do those, is it people in the church that are providing the meat? Because I think most wild game banquets are not really wild game.
Don't tell me that. Yeah, I think they were. I was in the last one I was in Hendersonville, Tennessee, which is really close to my home, and there are like multiple celebrities that go to this church, and I think there's kind of like some money rolling around and probably some big time hunters. So I feel comfortable saying that it was actually wild game, and it was definitely exotic type meat. That's what I'm going to call it. Exotic.
Yeah, so I'm going back to my not really wild game.
Okay, yeah. Maybe not like probably fenced animals. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Whatever.
Because
No.
because of you're not allowed to sell wild game commercially. So that means if it really was wild game, there better be some guys that are really killing a lot of stuff.
That's what I was thinking. Is like, would I really share buffalo with a bunch of dudes I don't know? No.
Yeah, if it's buffalo, that's definitely not wild buffalo. But it's still cool to eat.
It could totally be wild
Very,
buffalo.
like good lean meat too.
It could be wild buffalo.
I mean,
Could.
Yeah.
Doubtful.
Maybe they like mix a little buffalo in with the Sam's Club hamburger.
Yeah, probably true.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we were going with this now.
Yeah, I don't know either. Wild hog.
Wild hog. Yep.
Wild hog, yeah.
That's it.
I've had it. I haven't even shot one yet though. And you call me hog man.
It just fits, man. Honestly, you keep
Well,
talking
it is
about
very,
hog
like,
hunting.
well, it is very close to my name, so
It works, and I wish you would use it. It's marketing genius.
I think it's a little disingenuous.
That's true. Oh, couldn't call us the Adam Deerman or Mike Deerman at this point either. So
No,
there you go.
no.
Not if
Hey.
we're going off results this year.
Before I forget, because I feel like I'm on the way to forgetting stuff. On this coming Monday, which is going to be February 11th, my episode of the 5-minute pitch is going to be on. It's going to be on YouTube. It's called 5-minute pitch, and I don't know what time I don't know that it's going to go live per se, but I'm guessing Monday evening. So that's my episode of the thing that I went on. I can't tell you any of the results or anything because I signed a non-disclosure agreement, but my episode, I think it's the first one to come on because I don't think any other episodes have aired. And like I said,
And the show's 5-minute pitch.
yep, it's called 5-minute pitch, and it's
About time you told us.
What's that?
It's about time you told us what the show was too. So appreciate it.
Did I not say what?
No,
it was?
you didn't even tell me.
Yeah. Well, okay. It didn't matter. It wasn't even out yet. So now it's out.
I was wanting to stalk the show to see like why the heck they picked you, but
Well, you have to watch and find out.
I'm definitely going to watch. Was it like Skype? I mean, is this video or is this all audio?
Nope, it's video. Yep. Had to set up.
Sweet.
Yep, had to set up video. I set up like this in my living room. I kind of set it up to look professional. So
Nice.
I put the TV behind me. I set it up with a screen so it'd show my website behind me. And yeah. I brought in like a bunch of work lights. Here's a little, I can't remember, like they had us do this like after the show thing. So if you remember, when was this? Like November or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe before November,
Maybe October.
honestly. Yeah.
Oh, you know what it was? It was the beginning of December, I think, because I had a hunt. Or no, it was.
It might have been like I think we announced it before November because I pretty much went AWOL after November.
I had a hunt I missed the first day of the hunt to do the show. So
Oh yeah.
Anyway, sacrifices.
Is that the same hunt where the guy killed the 130-inch deer?
It is not.
That would have been so great.
Yeah, if I missed my chance at him. No, I actually hunted the spot where I had pictures of him the first day, and he hunted him probably, I don't know, 200-300 yards away is where he shot him. And I'll get into, actually, I'm going to get into that a little bit more, maybe when we start talking about our seasons, what my thoughts on how that went down is. All right, so I want to get that out of the way. So tune in on Monday. Just look up. I bet if you look at, it's going to be on Jungle Scout, I'm sure. There's a YouTube channel called Jungle Scout, which is all about basically how to get and selling stuff on Amazon. How I found about this in the first place, and I'm guessing they're going to do a separate channel for it, and I'll have more information as stuff comes up. So if you follow me on social media at Hunting Gear Deals or the Down South, it's Down South Hunt on Instagram for us. I'll put some information out there. Although I feel like maybe I'll do an Instagram story. I feel like Instagram is not really my thing yet. I gotta get better about that. But I'm not like a take pictures of everything kind of guy, and I'm not like a take a ton of selfies kind of guy either.
Oh, but I wish you were. Now, on the Instagram thing, if you did explain it via video, there's this new app where you can like a video yourself, and then it cuts it up for you, so you don't have to do a bunch of small videos. So we would all appreciate if you do it on Instagram.
Yes, I've seen that in a row where you have to like the click in between on some people's stories now.
Yep.
So that doesn't do that automatically on Instagram?
No.
I thought
no.
Instagram maybe like improved their
wish.
whatever it's called. Yeah.
No.
So you got to get the other app so you can video a bunch of stuff together and make a story of it.
Yep. And then it like cuts it up into 15-second segments and you just upload it to your story.
All right. Well,
I think it's called Cut Story.
Too deep into like the weeds of Instagram for those who
we just turned into an IT podcast.
So anyway, I'm excited about it though. Monday it's coming out, and I actually before then. So speaking of doing video stuff, I am going to get a Hunting Gear Deals YouTube channel up. So I've been talking a lot about the review program starting, which I'm not going to go into that again because the people that aren't interested are really probably tired of hearing about it. But I am going to start up a YouTube channel with that too. So we'll start doing some video reviews of hunting gear as well. So, one other side note before we get into our seasons then is going back to the Hunting Gear Deals thing is, first of all, really like some of the Nomad stuff that I use this season, and we'll get into that. But sorry, I had to burp there. Right now, a bunch of Nomad stuff's on sale. So, I talked about saving a bunch on my last episode that I did by myself. I talked about a bunch of different ways to save money. But right now at Academy, there's a bunch of Nomad stuff that's half off. And I know on the Nomad website, there's a bunch of stuff that's 40% off. And one of the things that's at Academy is those attack pants, which were awesome. I used those this year. So that's a good opportunity to save 50% on those. And then the Cottonwood stuff, I know you use that stuff. If you can find that on sale anywhere, I'd jump on that.
Yeah, I was looking to see what the price is right now for the Cottonwood. Let's see here. Because
I checked the Nomad site today and it wasn't discounted at all. So
gotcha.
You might have to just kind of keep you there. I'm sure there'll be some retailers that do that kind of stuff. And maybe they're just discounting stuff they're changing. Although I'd be really surprised if they were going to be closing out the attack pants because I really like those things.
Yeah, so Cottonwood's normally $180. That's what it is right now. I don't even see why, like how they could discount it much more than that based off of the price of competitor products.
Right. When you compare that to the things it's similar to, it's already like half off.
It is at least 40 to 50% off.
Yeah.
So anyways,
all right,
my favorite piece without a doubt.
Well, let me start asking you about your season and then you just ask me stuff as it comes up.
Cool.
All right. Let me I had some notes up and I lost them already. Here we go. All right. So I guess before I ask you any questions, like maybe just give us I think you actually recently killed a deer too that we haven't even talked about.
Yeah. I did the old last hunt, last day of the year, went and killed a doe just to put some more meat in the freezer. And I really haven't talked about this with anyone. So I killed the deer, like really, really needed 3 or 4 deer this year. And I've got this thing where like I want to kill a doe early in the season and I want to kill at least a couple late in the season. But what always gets me is like that in between time. And at the end, I'm kind of like, I just always put it off too much. Anyways, killed the doe. Man, she had a really bad limp. And so when I get up to her, I thought maybe she had been shot or she had had some kind of injury, whatever. I got up to her, man. She had this like sack on her belly. It's like looked like a basketball was hanging off of her belly, and it was so hard. And I was like, "What the heck is this?" Maybe not as big as a basketball, but it was very large. Make a long story short, I ended up gutting this deer, and it was full of infection. Had to have been like 10 pounds. So a little bit weirded out. Like, I mean, the green ooze, the volcano all over the meat. Yeah. I messaged Daryl Radijak and I was like, man, hey, I've never ran into this. What do you think? And he's like, it's going to be good to go. So ended up, I didn't actually keep the deer. I took it to the Hunters for the Hungry. So
you told me that. I didn't know if you're going to admit that on the podcast.
No, I'll totally admit that. I left a note.
I wouldn't feed it to my family, but homeless people is fine.
Hey, I left a note with the processor and it's like, hey man, this deer did have infection all over like the left hind quarter, and Daryl said it'd be fine, so I trust Daryl.
Is it more about you worrying about the meat or more about you like being grossed out by the pus stuff and not wanting to process it?
Honestly, I wasn't grossed out about eating it at all, it was my wife, and I'll definitely blame this one on her because I was in there. I was like, hey, I just want to let you know this is the situation, and she's like, we're not eating that. You can eat it, but I'm not eating it. My kids aren't eating it. And I mean, it was like a little bit of a point of contention. It's already 8 o'clock at night. I kayaked this thing out. It took me almost 2 hours to get it back to the ramp. Like I'm stinking tired, and she's telling me she's not going to eat this deer. I still have to, skin it out and butcher it out and all this stuff. So I called the processor and see if he'd take it for the Hunters for the Hungry, and he said he would. So it worked out okay.
Yeah. So do you pay the processor anyway?
I did not on that one.
Okay.
There are some processors for Hunters for the Hungry that I understand. Now this is the first time I've ever used it. I'd heard that you had to pay some of them to, do all the butchering work, which if that had been the case, I would have just butchered it up and taken it. But I did actually try to give it away to some friends, but they were all too wimpy to eat it as well. I totally had no problem with it. None at all.
I definitely would have eaten it myself, but it does when you start getting that goes back to like the CWD thing too. Like a lot of things you might do for yourself, but when it comes to your family, I don't know.
I'm going to make a bold statement on that too. And this is right around the time that CWD started popping up in Tennessee. It is so prevalent in those counties that where I hunt, like from home, there is no way that it's not more widespread in Tennessee than what they're saying or have tested. No doubt in my mind, it is definitely widespread. It has to be just based off of the numbers. And I don't know why no one's talking about that. They're just talking about it. It's concentrated in select counties. But if it's been here for 3+ years, how far out does it really reach?
Well, I know they've been testing all over the state, though. It's not like they're only testing in those counties.
Yeah, but I would just be shocked, man. Wait until next year.
Yeah.
Wait till next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm going to definitely see if my brother, or if I don't get back home and kill a deer there, if they'll send some off to be tested.
Didn't last year you have some type of you were getting some depredation permits or something like that?
It never happened.
No.
I mean, it's a suburban type
I
hunt.
specifically remember seeing you hunting behind somebody's house.
Oh, no, that was actually during deer season though.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, this guy, he's got deer just all over.
So how would you summarize your season as a whole? Like, are you
okay. So this is year number 2 hunting primarily public ground. I did go home and hunt a couple of times, killed both my deer off public ground. The first year, so 2017, I really struggled to get myself in the game with mature bucks, and that's really what I'm after. 2018, I had a chance, and still that sucks for me. I had a chance at 3 bucks. I pulled back on one. I swung my gun on another because he snuck up on me, and then obviously blew and ran off. And then another good buck, all 3 in Kentucky. But to be able to start closing in better, I mean, that was kind of like not something I mentioned as a goal before the season, but I mean, that's everyone's goal, is to get better at their craft. And I think hunting public land is challenging enough just to start getting in bow range of mature bucks was a huge win for me this year. It stinks, man. Like the second year in a row, I've totally whiffed on killing. So it's kind of like turkey hunt. I mean, turkey hunting, you might be able to draw that turkey in, but if your setup is not completely right, you're going to walk away empty-handed. And that's year number 2 for bucks that I've walked away empty-handed. But man, I've had a heck of a lot of fun doing it. So this is the most fun out of a deer season that I've had in a very long
that's
time.
Good.
Yeah.
And you got 2 does, was it?
Yep, 2 does. Yeah. One with a bow, one with a rifle. Both around home on public land. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And in the last one, you were able to haul out in your kayak. So that was one of your kayak.
Yeah, that was one of my kayaking goals. I wanted to get that thing bloody. And also, I mean, I had a chance to kill a lot of bucks, but not say a lot, maybe 3 with my bow and then a few more young bucks with my rifle. But I mean, that's, everyone has their standards and their goals, and mine was to kill a mature buck. It didn't happen.
Did you feel like you had some good opportunities on some smaller bucks that you passed up, or?
Oh man, yeah, man, definitely. But I just didn't want to shoot them. I'd rather shoot a doe.
Yeah,
That's just the way I feel about it.
yeah. So at least you got one deer in the freezer.
Well, and hey, the first daggum day in Kentucky, though, I will say this: like, there was a 7-point that, he wasn't what I'd call a mature buck, but he almost got it with the rifle. And I kind of look back on my season, and if I'd have killed that deer, I really think that I'd kind of feel better about the whole situation. I mean,
that's a hard place to put yourself, though. A lot of people believe like, don't shoot on the last day what you wouldn't shoot on the first, or don't shoot on the first day what you would shoot on the last. But you were on the first day of like you like 4 or 5 days. You had like a week-long hunt.
Yeah.
With like where you can hunt some of the most primo areas in Kentucky during the rut. I mean, I think you're justified. And now, obviously, looking back, yeah, sure, you didn't get one, you regret it, but I think you were kind of justified in holding out a little bit.
It was the first 45 minutes too, man. Like, I look over and he had like a stud of a body just standing there looking at me broadside. Long story. I mean, I set up a blind, which it sounds a little crazy, but the wind and rain was hitting so hard. Like it just made sense where I was at. And I knew like if a deer saw me, it was going to be too late for him, I thought. And it was just a great scenario. And I passed it. He didn't run off. He just kind of looked at me and went to browsing around. And that whole trip, man, I saw 13 bucks, and 11 of those bucks were all chasing. And I never see that kind of action in Tennessee just because the buck to doe ratio is so much better up there. So like, man, I just can't even describe it, dude. I was pumped for my Kentucky trip. We didn't get to talk about it much, but I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. We kind of talked about it like during it, but I don't know how much in the podcast we've gotten into it, but I don't even know for sure. I think we kind of talked about it, but how we like, just how about like give us a summary of that trip as a whole, like what your strategy was and how it kind of all played out.
So first of all, I'd been studying maps, like a map of a one singular WMA the entire season. As the WMA I hunted the year before, and a week and a half before the hunt, I find out that I have this lottery ticket, this tag, the governor's tag, where I can hunt any WMA. So I'm like, well, okay, I'm not going to hunt this WMA that's going to be super crowded when I can hunt a primo area that will not be. And I had stepped foot on it during bow season. I'd kind of like lightly scouted it. That would be probably stretching it. Lightly scouting would be more of aerial scouting and just kind of knew what was going on. So I'm going into a brand new area, no experience with it. It was tough, man. It wasn't anything like the terrain of the area that I planned on hunting. It's not like any kind of terrain because there's so much more agriculture available that I've ever hunted in Tennessee. So man, I tried to stick close to some observation areas in the beginning with food and just places where I could see. And literally I would just creep in closer. And I learned a lot by talking to some locals, some things that I had read online about hunting in the Midwest that I hadn't really applied. Let's say like hunting beast tactics, like a thermal hub. I ran into one particular area where I actually found thermal hub, which I'd never been able to hunt at home before. And that was the place where I actually drew back on a buck and had an opportunity to make a kill. But I decided to pass on the shot, continued to think he'd get closer and offer a shot. Never happened. And it just didn't work, man. But hunting food out there is key, it seems like, in hunting the pressure. So knowing where everyone else is going to be and getting away from them. I mean, if I walked past 1 mile, I was guaranteed to see a buck that day. It just every time. I mean, I would get into bucks. Now, if I didn't walk past that 1 mile, I would find that like deer sightings would be much, much less.
That's crazy.
I don't know if I taught anybody anything there, but probably not. I could probably go in a lot more detail, like if I tried to think it out and put it through in a blog post of kind of the tactics that I did use. But I tried to find food, find fresh sign, if I could find bedding, and then I hunted a lot of terrain features that I was just familiar with.
I think you just taught us all we probably ought to all be hunting Kentucky.
Hunt, yeah,
somewhere in the Midwest.
hunt somewhere in the Midwest, and you're gonna have so much more fun. I'll say this for 2019, I have no plans of trying to hunt Kentucky during the rut, and that's all because of pressure. And I've done more research, and I understand that Kentucky's a great place to go. But for the rut hunt, man, I want to go somewhere like I can experience Kentucky, like I had the experience with Kentucky, where it can be less pressure, and try to get into a place where I can see, that chasing, because I mean that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy just thinking about. I mean, it's just different where we hunt down here in the South. There's just different tactics and ideas, and the rut is different. I mean, obviously we all want to hunt the rut, but I don't think there's really anything that compares to the Midwest when it comes to that type stuff.
No, I don't either.
All right. So
how about you, man? So why don't we pivot to you for a minute?
Okay.
Let's talk about where you went, or you start anywhere, man.
Yeah.
Broad.
So maybe I'll just like kind of jump through my major hunt. So the first hunt I had was an archery hunt in an area I'd never been before. I scouted it a couple times, and I had a really hard time finding deer and deer sign in that area. And I had a guy that was kind of helping me out, Eric, who had scouted the place a bunch, hunted it a couple other times. And basically he said, you got to find the persimmon trees to get on these deer, because the persimmons are dropping at this time. So while I was scouting, found a couple trees. But by the time the hunt came around, they didn't have any persimmons left on them. And I felt kind of like aimless. So in the hunt was like during the week. So I was also working, and my original plan was like, when this hunt came up, I was thinking I would be done with my regular full-time job. Like I had put in a long notice and thought I was going to be done, but unfortunately they weren't able to replace me yet. So I was still working there full time, and didn't really have like vacation set aside or anything, because I wasn't planning on working there. So, which by the way, this is my last month for sure. Like the end of this month is it for me.
Congratulations.
So, yeah. Thank you. I think. So, it's definitely like full-time e-commerce for me after this. So I wish Down South Hunting was bringing in so much money that it was going to be full-time Down South Hunting, or even full-time Hunting Gear Deals. Not yet. So I got to work on that one a little bit more. But I'm definitely going to be doing e-commerce. So a little sidetrack there. But so I did have one encounter where I had a buck coming out chasing a doe, got within like 60 yards. So that was like my closest encounter with a buck the whole year. And it was probably, I probably saw that buck for, I don't know, a minute. But it was all, out of range. Saw a few other deer that trip. Then I had, I think after that was that next archery hunt where I went up to that area up in the Panhandle, and I had the archery hunt and the gun hunt. The archery hunt was like blazing hot, and the mosquitoes were just awful because the hurricane had gone through and the place was so wet. Like the mosquitoes were unbelievable. Running Thermacell. I was running Thermacell and spraying down with bug spray, and it was still like it was pretty bad. And
was this November?
This was in November. Yep.
Oh man.
And I want to say the temperatures were in like lows in the 70s, and then highs in the upper 80s. So it was just like really hot and humid. It was like in the 80s and like foggy because the humidity was so high. So I actually like halfway through that trip, I'm like, man, I need to like switch it up and get to some higher ground, because I've been hunting like some swampy areas, and I kind of felt like the mosquitoes were so bad there, like maybe even the deer would have moved out, not just mosquitoes, but flies and that kind of stuff. So I ended up the last morning, finally saw some deer for the first time. And let's see. I was checking this. I didn't see any animals get checked out of that whole hunt out of like probably 100 hunters. Then I went back up a few weeks later, and the first day of the gun hunt, there was probably 30 deer that got shot. So I don't know what changed there. I don't know if it was like maybe there's definitely more hunters in the gun hunt. And the weather was definitely better. It was a lot cooler. So, man, I don't know that kind of stuff. Like, there's a lot of things this season I've been paying a lot of attention just to weather and my thoughts and that kind of stuff because of the whole weather movement study.
I was going to ask you, did you feel like you saw more deer movement with the weather being cooler?
I mean, I know for sure I saw more deer. I just don't know if it was because of the weather. And I know a lot more deer got shot. The other thing is when it's gun hunting versus archery, like maybe a lot of those guys saw animals and they didn't check them out because they weren't close enough to shoot. But with a gun, they would have been. So it's hard to say. But I can tell you I'm like a lot less attracted to that archery hunt after having been up there. And like it was like, don't get me wrong, I would have chosen to be out hunting in the woods rather than not. Like I did hear about some guys that just went home early. It was like, they're like, it's not worth it. But
Can't
to
blame
me,
them.
my hunts are like few and far between enough.
Yeah.
I'm not going to like skip out early on a hunt. So that hunt, I had an opportunity at a doe on the first morning. And it was kind of late morning. And I was definitely going to shoot it, and I was waiting just for like a nice clear shot. And unfortunately, I waited too long because it stepped behind a bush and just disappeared, which is pretty frustrating. Like the deer was at probably 40 yards, and it did stand broadside, but there was like a little bit of brush in between, and it had been walking toward me. So I thought, well, I'm just going to wait. It was upwind, so there was no reason I thought would be a problem. I just thought I was going to have like a chip shot at it. And this is with a rifle. So, 40 yards wouldn't have been a problem either if it had been out in the open. But it stepped behind this bush and just disappeared. And I thought where it stepped out, like it was like kind of cornered, like it would have to walk back out, but apparently not, because I never saw the thing again. I sat all day waiting for that thing to come back out and it didn't. So that's maybe my one regret, because I don't have anything in the freezer. Like that would have been pretty nice to have. And I was like, it wouldn't even been like unethical had I shot sooner, but I just wanted to make sure I made a really good, nice, clean shot, because I was down in this bottom. I was on this like management area hunting by myself, and I didn't want to be like having like some big long track job way back and then have to figure out how to get this deer out and that kind of, like I wanted to drop the thing in its tracks. So it's one of those things where you look back and I don't think I necessarily did anything wrong. It just didn't work out. But in hindsight, I wish I shot sooner because I didn't get a better chance. The things were adding up. It looked like I would have been. So I don't know if there's like a lot anybody else can learn from that other than, it's hunting. Sometimes it doesn't work out.
I say this, man, like I think it's always better to go with your gut in these situations. Like you don't want to injure a deer. You don't want to put yourself in a bad situation. Like,
yeah,
I think it's a good call.
And then I was like really fortunate. Like normally the last few years I've been going to Alabama. I didn't get to go last year, but I've been going to Alabama for a weekend. I've got family with a lease up there. So my brother-in-law's got a lease up there now. And it's on this hunting club. They put up food plots. It's nice. They got a lot of deer there. And usually that's kind of like a very high percentage opportunity if I just want to shoot a doe. And actually this year for Christmas, my wife got me the 3-day license. And then my mother-in-law made it a 10-day license. So I actually got to go up twice. I went up for 2 weekends and was not able to make it happen, which, the first weekend was really warm and rainy and we hardly saw any deer.
Man.
But man, I still really struggle with that because I really think those GPS studies are legit. So I don't know. It's just one of those things I really still struggle with. Like I can't just discount because I didn't see deer a couple times that the deer weren't moving. I really think it's got to come down to like where they're moving, but they got to be moving somewhere. So anyway, that was Alabama, which was like, man, I mean, and it was like pre-rut there, so there wasn't a lot of like, I don't think there was like a lot of cruising and stuff going on, but really I was just looking to put some meat in the freezer. So I saw a couple deer, but didn't really have any good opportunities. And I hunted hard those few weeks. It's like one of those clubs where there's like preset stands and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of people just hunt like the most comfortable way. And I felt like I was hunting hard, doing hang and hunt type sets and that kind of stuff. Just wasn't able to make it happen this year. But
were you saddle hunting in the box blind club?
Yes, I was.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
I like your style.
And that kind of stuff, I feel like, I should be able to get away from pressure if I'm willing to do that kind of stuff.
Let me ask you this. Do you think you could have been overthinking it? Because as I hunted Kentucky and as I talked to other guys that were hunting Kentucky, and we all kind of had the same opinion. Some of the guys that were successful said, I think we're overthinking it and we're hunting it like we would back home. Don't hunt it like you would at home. Just hunt where the deer are, hunt where the food is. So maybe some feedback to think about next time.
Yeah, I don't know that was the case there. I mean, like, because I wasn't hunting like in the evenings. I'm hunting on a food plot for the most part. One evening let's see.
Yeah, that's not overthinking it. That's
yeah.
I think that's pretty
if you're
solid.
On a food plot, yeah. So it's really, and when it comes to that, I really think it's one. I try to pick, if I'm doing that, I'm trying to hunt the food plots where nobody else has been hunting. Yeah. I don't want to go where the guy's been, oh yeah, we saw a deer this night and whatever, where nobody shot anything recently, that kind of thing.
But how would you know if they'd been there or not? Just based on what they're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, everybody kind of talks about where they're going and what they're seeing and that kind of stuff. I think probably most clubs, if somebody sees like a really nice buck, they might not really talk about it. But
yeah, that's true.
But I think when it comes to does and that kind of stuff, everybody's like pretty open. So I really think a lot of that just comes down to luck of the draw. It's not like when you're picking a food plot, it's like, oh, this strategy, and maybe if you like hunt there all the time, like on this wind, at this time of year, there really is more deer in this area or something like that. But a lot of it, I think there's a lot of pressure that second weekend. There's a lot of guys there. So really, I think the deer can get moved around and that kind of stuff. Normally maybe they come out to an area, but somebody bumps them on the way in or whatever. It's just kind of a crapshoot. So, I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I might even hunt the same areas. Going back to something you did mention about though, and this is like kind of getting off track a little bit, but one thing that I've started to think about this season is, and you've talked, like I believe in like what Dan Infalt teaches and beast tactics and relating to bedding and that kind of stuff. And part of that is really trying to only hunt an area like one time or, really low pressure an area, because I really believe that deer can smell where you've been. Mm-hmm. So, and Bob Shepard is another guy that, he was like, he'd only hunt one spot per season, in an area once per season. But I feel like the more, at least here in Florida, and I want to keep talking to people and asking them about this. And I'd love to find some more like successful guys like this to bring on, which it's really hard. I would love to bring on like successful, like guys that get it done year in, year out on public land and bring those guys on the podcast and really pick their brain. But the problem is those guys are not the ones that really want to talk about what they're doing to everybody.
No.
Because part of the reason of success is not telling everybody what you're doing, like not that they don't want to help people, but they just, I've heard of guys saying like they get recognized off of social media or whatever, and people are following them in the woods and stuff. So, they're parking where they're parking and that kind of, so
yeah,
part of me understands that. Like like me, I don't mind burning my spots so much. One, cause I got a podcast and, that's part of helping people out. And two, I'm not that successful anyway. So,
park where we park. Go ahead.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe you'll drive one over on us.
Yeah, maybe. Right. Maybe it'd be a good indication you should try a different area.
That's funny.
So, but what I hear from a lot of guys that get it done is they will find an area, maybe with hot sign, or they know it's a good funnel or that kind of stuff, and they will sit that spot the whole, like if it's a 3-day hunt, they will sit the same spot for 3 days in a row. And these are guys that are getting it done. Like maybe they don't get it done every hunt. And one thing I have also found is that people that really are having a ton of success are ones that will hunt basically every weekend, which is not me. I just can't. Yeah. I'm not that place in life right now.
I think most people can agree the people that hunt the most have the most success.
Yes.
There's no question about that.
So the question is, are they having the most success because they're putting more time in, or is it because they know hunt? I mean, it's probably some type of combination. It depends on who you're talking about. But I mean, I'd love to hear from the guy that, goes into an area blind and is able to get it done in a 3-day hunt and, does that in different areas and doesn't have tons and tons of time to scout. But I feel like that's like the holy grail of, of hunting or whatever,
There's one
that
person I can
exists.
think of that does that. That's Andy May. I mean, he goes public land, 2 to 3 day hunts. Doesn't, I mean, it sounds like he scouts, but
Yes.
his hunts are shorter and he gets it done quick. So he's kind of like breaking that rule in my view.
Yeah. The only thing with that though is like, look at like Eberhardt when he goes out of state. Like a lot of these guys, I mean, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, but they're hunting like higher percentage areas too. Like, of course, if you're going to travel and go out of state and do that kind of stuff, you're going to go to the best area. I would do the same thing.
You go to Kansas, your chances are a lot better than Alabama. That's for sure.
But I'm talking like a dude here in Florida that's going, like, there's different management area hunts. I know there are guys that are way better than I am. And I know who some of them are. And I've tried to get some on the podcast and haven't been able to, but where they'll kind of hop around to these areas and, they might kill $6-8 a year because they're, they get it done in a short period of time. Anyway, we'll see if I got one more shot to get it done this year. I'm not giving up on myself yet, but, needless to say, I do a lot better when I'm hunting 1,000 acres of private land with nobody else hunting it.
Don't we all?
On public land.
Well, let me pivot and ask you this question. What is one thing you learned this year? Like something deep that you're going to carry with you?
I wasn't really prepared for that question, Adam.
Well, you didn't give me notes, so.
I haven't asked you any questions yet, though.
Wow, that's true.
I've learned a lot of little things. Like I've learned a lot of, we haven't gotten to this yet, but I learned a lot about using the saddle and just setup wise and getting comfortable that way. So I definitely learned that stuff. I'm sure I picked up on stuff. So one of my things that I talked about going into the season was trying to get good at just being able to hunt blind in an area and just kind of like show up and scout for hot sign and hunt that hot sign. And man, that was tough. Like I really thought I would be better at it or it would be easier.
It's probably where you're hunting though, man, because I did the same thing in Kentucky and had a lot of success. Really?
Well, it is. Like I'm sure it is because a lot of the areas there's just not tons of sign.
Yeah, you don't have the deer density that other places do. That's the problem.
But that's one of the problems. Walk a lot of, and maybe I was walking past the best sign in an area, or maybe I just wasn't looking in the right places. I'm not sure. So what I learned is that's a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. And I didn't think it was going to be easy. But that suits like my life so much better to be able to do that. I'm not going to give up on it. Because I don't think it's impossible. It's just something I need to improve on for sure. So, and I'd obviously it'd be a lot better if I could scout some more though.
Yeah. So I think that's about the most important thing to be doing, especially for me right now. I got some hot spots and I'm going in there, making sure I know those areas for next year, and I'm cutting everything else off the list, whittling it down.
So maybe I'll come up with something else, but let me flip that question to you then. So what is one key thing that you've learned this season?
Dude, 2 years in a row, I've missed 2017, I missed a deer because I was like 15 yards from where I should have been. This year, I was 15 yards from where I should have been. Both times, I walked right by the tree that I should have been in. And in my gut, I knew that was the tree. And I think it goes to thinking more of trust your gut, your intuition, because really that is just your gut is telling you what you know because of past experiences, whatever it may be. Maybe things you can't see clearly with your eyes. Maybe I'm just not that smart of a dude. I don't know. But I'm going to start trying to trust my gut more. And I felt like I did that later in the year. But, hunting Tennessee, and there's some great places to hunt in Tennessee. Don't get me wrong, where the deer density is good, the buck to doe ratio is good. But where I hunt, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's not that great. But I do feel like I did a better job with it this year than I did last year, and hunted it harder and smarter. So one thing that I learned.
Walk me through what was going through your head when you passed the right tree and went to the wrong tree, and why it was the wrong tree.
This year, it was all about like the ability to see. I wanted to be in a spot where I could see just a little bit better, and it took me off the main trail and the main terrain feature. It was basically this terrain feature that I was on this year was a saddle that was not visible from a map. It wouldn't have been, you couldn't have seen it on a topo, but as you walked the property, like it was legitimately a saddle. It was tore up with deer trails and all around it. And I knew like I needed to be close to that because a deer would come through there. That's exactly where he would cross. And that's exactly where the buck crossed. And I mean, I was still within bow range, but I put myself just far enough out that I didn't have as many shots and I didn't feel comfortable taking the shots that I could have taken because I wanted to see more, just be able to see more. And hey, I had a good time because I mean, I saw a lot of bucks. And if I hadn't have sat in that spot, I wouldn't have saw the probably, well, not the best, but the best bow buck that I had an opportunity to shoot out of that stand. But it cost me being able to kill a deer too. So there you go.
So you kind of pick more of an observation tree than a killing tree.
It was a little bit of both because the tree that I picked, that I should have picked, was about a third of the way down the hill. That's basic Dan Infalt hunting beast style. Hey, that's what you should do. And I picked a tree that was about a third from the top. And this isn't like a huge hill. It was just a little bit of an elevation change I thought I could take advantage of, and I was wrong. I mean, it wasn't like a big hill. I don't know how to judge it here, but it wasn't much of anything. So just bad choice on my end.
Man. Was this an area you speed scout? I know you did some speed scouting before the season, kind of covered some ground. Was this an area you found when you were speed scouting?
I was speed scouting during the hunt, basically. Like I was scouting my way in. Okay. And yeah. And literally I kept going until I got to the point of, am I too far away from the truck? And when I got to that point, like that's when the deer sign really started opening up. I actually ran into a 6-point, like legitimately I had to wave him off. He was within feet of me. He was about to run over me, but he was chasing a doe. And when that happened, like I was like, okay, I'm going to grid this little area out. And that's kind of how I found that spot. I saw the doe first, and then he came up like literally chasing me like I was the doe. It was a really weird situation.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
So when you were during that hunt, then what were you doing in the morning hunts then?
Morning hunts, picking terrain features to hunt. Like the first morning I hunted a saddle. The second morning I hunted like a funnel, and then after that I had a little bit better of idea of where I wanted to hunt based off. Were you
walking in while it was still dark, or did you wait for first light? How did you do that?
I did. I totally went in at completely dark.
Yeah.
And went ahead and climbed up the tree. I don't know if that's what I'll do going in next time, but that's what I did this time.
So you like picked a tree in the dark?
Yep. And every morning I did that except for one. I had small bucks within shooting range. And I say small, like 1.5-year-old bucks.
How close to like first light was that? Do you feel like you had opportunities you wouldn't have had if you waited?
No, I could have totally waited. Every buck that I saw was after 8:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I could have totally waited.
I'm really like leaning towards like on these hunts, like waiting until like I certainly don't want to be walking up on other people that already set up and like scout and stuff, but really waiting until I can see some to like get to the area. So maybe like walking in the dark, but as long as like I could set up real quiet, waiting until like gray light to be setting up. Which I'm not sure that's like, I think in an area where you know where you're going, it's good to be set up in the pitch dark. But if you're kind of like scouting your way in or that kind of thing, which is, there's a big advantage if you're kind of going in an area blind, to maybe find the right spot because you can see a little bit. I just don't know if that's where that risk reward lies,
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So I had this whole list of questions and we're already like an hour in. So we might just have to like crank these out. But one thing you mentioned before the season is that you wanted to start getting into journaling. So I wanted to see how that went for you.
Dude, I totally blew it on that. Like every night, like especially in Kentucky, I really wanted to take some really detailed notes. And every night I was so tired, I went to sleep. And even looking back on it, I didn't do a very good job there. I did do a good job mapping out tree stands that I hunted and but I didn't do a good job journaling it and sightings and weather and all that good stuff.
Okay.
But I did keep up with all the trees that I hunted out of.
So how do you feel about that now, like after the season? Is that something like you think you're going to keep doing, or is it kind of like, it's a great idea, but not really realistic?
It's okay. So the journaling side, I'm going to continue to try to do better, but keeping up where I hunted is probably one of the most important things that I did going into next year, because what I've already done is I've cleaned up my onX. I mean, I went through there and I took out all the tree stand locations that sucked, that didn't produce, and I left in the ones that did. So what next year, that doesn't mean I won't hunt anywhere close to where those locations that sucked were, but I will definitely, have it in my mind historically this past season, the ones that worked and the ones that didn't.
So this is like a really good time to plug your article you just wrote on down south hunting, because basically that like covered some of that in the article, and it was like that article is legit. It's like a really good article. So especially if you have onX, you need to get on the website and check that out. It's the first blog post on down south hunting, and if you don't use onX, you should read it if you something you're thinking about, just because there's a lot of like good information on how it's useful. So
thanks.
Give you that plug there.
I appreciate that.
And going into that, like how did you use onX this season? Like how was that useful in those hunts?
It was most useful. I don't use it for gaining access to private property. It's all about using the topo feature, the aerial feature, which a lot of apps can do that, but onX is just cleaner and it syncs with my computer, so I can be doing something on my desktop, which I do most of my scouting from the desktop, make my waypoints, which are cleaner in onX, put them there and they show up on my phone. I can download the maps onto my phone. Just having that made my comfort level overall about hunting new areas so much higher, man. Because I'll say this, when I first moved to where I live now, I had one place to hunt. I lost that property. I've talked about it till I'm blue in the face. Like I kind of got tired of deer hunting in some ways, because it was just tough to find places to hunt. I wouldn't even feel comfortable about hunting public land because the areas were so skinny to hunt. Like there just wasn't a lot of land mass, and I'd feel like I would be trespassing, and I don't want to do that. So now with onX, man, I just feel comfortable going places that I never would have went before. So it broadens my confidence level of going and doing new things. That's main thing with that onX really does for me, past the point of like being able to do some aerial scouting.
And I'll say for me, like normally here in Florida, it's not really that much of an issue, but when I was hunting in Alabama, it was really cool to use that hybrid feature. That was definitely able to like try to locate some areas, and I know I wasn't successful doing it, but I know a couple areas that I was in, like had I had more than just one hunt to sit there, or one, maybe it's more like figuring out the area. But a lot of times, like say I get one hunt, well, I've just been able to hunt like the morning only, and maybe that's a better location for like an evening sit or that kind of thing. But I was able to find sign that kind of stuff, based on being able to use that hybrid feature, which is really cool. Here in Florida, the hybrid really, the only thing I'll say it helps with, well, it's hard to see. So on the hybrid, you can see the lines for the elevation changes. It's hard to see on the map the areas where it's swamp and not swamp. You almost have to like switch back between aerial and the what is the other, satellite?
Yeah.
Which works. I mean, it's a simple like click of a button, but I'm very hesitant to say topo because I want to say topo.
So. I think either works.
Yeah, I think topo is I feel like I've heard enough smart people say topo. That's probably the way to say it. But
no more comments from me. Not on that.
Okay, so and another thing with onX, were you able to use any of your, we did the onX challenge this year. Were you able to hunt any areas that you were able to gain permission or gain access through that way?
So funny story. I can't give too much detail, but I had very limited access to the place I received permission, and it was based off of that place doing events at certain times of the year. Every time I reached out to them, they said they had an event going on and I couldn't use it. Man. You talking about upset. So the last deer that I killed, though, I actually got in my kayak, and that's why it took me 2 hours to get back to the boat ramp. Is because I made the big long trek out there from a different boat ramp to get to the side of that property to
So it would
hunt
have
it.
saved you a lot of time if you, yeah.
Oh,
So,
dude, yeah, it saved me a lot of
but that's
time.
something you can still use going years forward, right? You're just
Oh yeah,
to keep doing the same thing and figure out when these events are.
and I found other ways to access it and got a little more creative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like trespassing creative?
No, but it's going to take a little bit more work pulling my kayak around. I gotta say, guys, I need a boat. I need a boat with a
Yeah.
motor so bad.
It
was tough.
All right. So, and for me, that I had like one place I had kind of lined up, and that person never got back with me. So,
That stings. Yeah,
I'm not giving up on the whole idea of like asking for permission in the South, though. Like, I really have it in my heart. I'd love to like move to South Georgia and move out in the country some, rather than I'm not driving 3-4 hours to hunt.
Yeah.
I know if I'm in an area like that, it'd be way easier. Not that it'd be way easier to get yeses, but it wouldn't be driving an hour away. It'd be like, hey, stop a couple places. You know, if you live in an area where there's a lot of places to hunt around, you ought to be asking for permission, unless you just have more area you can hunt anyway.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Well, how about your fitness? That's something you were like, it was important to you at the beginning of the season, wanted to get in good hunting shape. Is that something you stuck with?
Yeah. I'm not doing so hot right now, but through hunting season, I did really well. And I will say that it definitely helped me push through and maybe not be as lazy as I would have in the past and just be more comfortable overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just like any advice for that, like future years, like as far as what kind of I know you were doing CrossFit.
Yeah, I was doing CrossFit. I think that works out really well for people that are interested in it, but mainly just, hiking, walking, running. And then if for you guys using tree stands, I'd be doing some upper body stuff if you're doing hanging hunts. I mean, I don't have to do that in my little saddle, but I can see, a guy pulling up a tree stand. He might want to do some curls and bench press or something.
So I think you kind of hit this on already, but you wanted to focus more on like beast style tactics and access. You feel like that was helpful?
It was very helpful, and I proved that at the very end of this season. I actually opted out of going back to Kentucky, which I used some beast style in Kentucky, but I went home and hunted very familiar terrain, but I hunted it differently than I ever have. And the deer were exactly where the deer should have been, according to what Dan would talk about in hill country and betting off of different points. My brother and I, like this year, got into looking at like the thermal hubs, and you and I talked about it in private, where the hunting public guys, they killed a really solid buck in a thermal hub that I said I would have never hunted before because I would have been afraid that I would have gotten winded. But those guys talked about how they hunted it and like low wind days, and then you kind of have to get out before it gets too late. Anyways, my brother killed a really nice buck in that thermal hub, and he had an opportunity to kill another one in another thermal hub close to our house. So that
was on
really
the
worked out.
Instagram page. I remember seeing that was a nice buck.
Yeah, killed it with his rifle. He was super excited. That's the best buck he's ever killed, and we separately did some scouting of the property and found deer beds, buck beds, definitely buck beds where buck beds should have been. But going back to what you and I've talked about, there are just so many places to bed, and it's just hard to predict. I mean, you might be where a buck's primary bedding area should be, but there's just no guarantee if you're not able to hunt it on the right day that you'll make the kill. But at least it was fun and I learned a lot.
All right, so you got a couple books before the season started. What about Forbes? Were you able to learn some stuff that came in handy with that?
I learned a few things that I think I'll be able to apply more so early season next year. But my view is, and where I saw the most hot deer sign and activity was, find the fresh acorns hitting the ground and you're going to find the deer. That's just the way it is in most of the South. So nothing new there, honestly.
Yeah, man, I had the hunts that I had, there were so many acorns. It was like, I don't really know how to find the tree.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's like I could, they're everywhere. So do I think deer eat them? Yes. Do they prefer some trees over another? Yes. Do I know how to find that tree? Not really. And I don't know if they prefer that tree where they're like skipping over a bunch of other trees to get to it. You know, maybe it just is closer to where they bed or that kind of stuff. So, I, it's just a lot of that goes back to like, I think some people are better than others at that kind of stuff, but I, at the same time, don't know that it makes it easy. So, and, I think I got into this. So I think what we talked about earlier with guys that are successful, it just seems like some of these guys will find a spot with hot sign. And to me, like I'll find a spot with hot sign and I will sit at once. And if I don't see anything, I'm moving on looking for the next spot.
Yeah.
And it seems like some of these guys, when they find the spot where they think it's the spot, they'll spend 3 days there, just sit in the same spot all day. And lo and behold, they end up killing a good deer doing it. So is this where like these deer are traveling through and they're not hitting the same spot every day? So you're in a good spot and you're catching them? Because I think if a mature buck walks by a spot the night that you had just spent there hunting there, I don't believe he's going to come there during daylight the next day. But if they're covering enough different area and they're not patterning on one tree, then maybe you catch them, you know, maybe it takes them 3 days to hit their whole, you know, where they're going anyway. So man, I don't know. I really, that's like something I really need to like figure out. And I hope that's something like I can do like by sharing that journey publicly and people can learn from that. Because I don't know which way is the better way, to be honest.
So I had a unique experience in Kentucky. I found a tree, like I walked up on it, and literally when I was walking up on it, I was walking down a hill and I could see the edge of a deer's back. So I laid down and kind of crawled up, and it was a little spike, and he's feeding on acorns underneath this tree out in the middle of the field. And I mean, this tree is just like, you can just hear it. Donk, 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 donk. It's just falling. It's unbelievable how many acorns are falling off this tree. And I'm trying to find a place where maybe I can set up after this little spike goes away. And I really couldn't find a place to set up unless I had a ghillie suit or something like that. So there's just no cover at all. So anyways, I set up an observation stand, and man, there were deer pouring in from all over the place to that tree. One really solid buck. I had no opportunity to shoot this deer, but it was just amazing because there were acorns all over the ground, but they were all going to that one tree. It was a destination spot. And I walked up on that spike around lunchtime, and it wasn't like the deer came in at one certain time. It was just through the rest of the afternoon. And I hunted close to that tree the next day and didn't see any deer around that tree. So, and I hunted there all day, almost an all day set in that area where I could at least see that tree, and just trying to find different ways where I thought the deer would access it or like travel through to get there, and didn't work. I don't know.
So I guess I could I feel pretty confident saying this. Like ideally, if you scout like Dan Infalt or John Eberhart, and you're spending like 100 days in the field scouting, and you've got 100 spots, then maybe in that case, yeah, it's better to hunt a different spot every single time. But if you're limited on time and you find a spot with a bunch of deer sign, that maybe it's better to sit the same spot. But I have a hard time I feel like I'd have a hard time doing that, you know?
Yeah. Didn't Hunter Galloway, doesn't he hunt like one spot for 10 days in a row? And that dude's killing good deer every year, multiple good deer.
Yeah. And he might shoot it on the 6th day, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. He talked about his whole family does that. But you know, I talked to Hunter after we talked to him, and I really do feel like if he were to jump around a little bit more, it would help him out. but maybe I'm wrong, because he's the one killing big bucks and I'm not.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell him anything.
Yeah.
See if he'll take me hunting and be like, can you stick me in that stand after your 5th day, and I'll just hunt there the rest of the week.
But it does seem crazy. Like he'll, and I don't know if Hunter listens at all. I know he did the interview with us. I don't know if he listens to the podcast, but they'll sit in a stand for 4 days and not see anything. And then on the 5th day, you see a good buck that you shoot. And I don't think, that's like one thing his family does in a certain area. I think a lot of his hunts has been the first sit where he's shooting stuff. And I think maybe on the 5th day, the reason they're shooting that is somebody bumped a deer that's coming through there. And, it's not like they necessarily had a pattern. It's just they're in a funnel and somebody bumped a deer,
Yeah. And it's not like they're hunting over a field either. I mean, they're hunting back in the mountains and the hardwoods. So these deer have plenty of opportunity to pick up their scent.
I wish I were like an authority on hunting and I could come on this podcast and tell everybody like definitively like this is absolutely what you need to do. But I'm just, hunting like everybody else is, trying to figure things out and the way to do it. So hopefully as I learn, then everybody else is learning too.
True that, man.
All right. I guess the last thing I want to talk about was gear. So we already touched on some of the stuff. So what's some of the gear you used? Let's just get the big one out of the way. What are your like final thoughts on the saddle after a year with it?
Well, I do not own a tree stand any longer. So saddle is here to stay. And the climbing sticks, like my climbing method has to get better. And I'm going to continue to modify and work on that piece. I'm cutting my Lone Wolf sticks down to 24 inches, trying to modify them, make them look more like the Beast sticks. Got the double steps on them. I put 8ers on all of them. I'm going to try that out and see how that works. But that's where I'm at with the saddle. How about you, man?
Definitely glad I got it. Definitely sticking with using it, and definitely not getting rid of all my other tree stands. I really think like I want to work a hybrid of both. Like, you know what? There were several hunts this year where I brought my climber in, and I wished I had my saddle. And there were hunts where I brought my saddle in and wished I had my climber. I think it's just a matter of like knowing where you're going and what I think there's just benefits to both. I think the climber, another thing like we hadn't talked about yet, I think the climber is really good for gun hunting. You can get a lot higher, easier.
Oh, that's true.
You got a really good shooting rest. So I know some people like hunting out of a saddle better for the shooting rest, but I think that might be when you're comparing it to like a hang on. But I'll
tell you one thing I don't like about gun hunting out of a saddle is the fact that I feel like I need my gun like in my hands the entire. Yeah, like in between my bridge and my chest, and that's stinking cold, man. If it gets down into the teens and you're holding on to that stinking rifle, but if you're not, like it with no leaves on the trees and like trying to move around, like I had some issues because I played around with like acting like I was going to, practicing aiming in on a small buck, and that dude spotted me, and he shouldn't have spotted me from pulling the gun off of the tree, like moving like I should have. And I feel like I'm not a pro at a lot, but I feel pretty confident in that ability. And yeah, I just feel like I need that gun in my hands, and that's not comfortable at all.
I think I was hanging mine, which seemed to work okay, but I never had any like shot opportunities where I was, really trying to figure that out. So one thing, you have to get used to hunting the saddle is you're setting up on the opposite side of the tree as you normally would.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of those guys that likes standing most of the time, or you put your climber on the backside. But I think most people, when they're setting up a traditional tree stand, they're setting up so they're facing, where they expect the deer to come from, versus the saddle, you're behind it. So, maybe if you're behind the tree and you need to get that gun, that's not such an issue. But I'm still going to use the saddle gun hunting too. There's just like too many benefits. There were, several times when I went in, like quote unquote stand on my back, more like saddle on my waist, where it would have been such a pain to use a climber to do that. Just trying to get through stuff, making so much noise, getting set up loud. But I will say, usually when I got to a place and where I set up, if there was like a tall, straight pine tree, I was usually like disappointed that I didn't have my climber, because it'd be so easy to jack up the tree. I'm not like, I don't have like my climber like all modded out in like super stealth quiet, but I've used that thing enough. I can climb pretty quietly where I think a deer could be within 100 yards and not know I'm using the climber. And I'm not as efficient using the sticks and stuff, where I guess I would say I could do the same thing actually with the saddle. But usually it comes down to, with the gun, it's like usually it helps to be higher because you can see further. There's just so many benefits to both. Like I'm just not getting rid of either one. Like I'm really glad that I got it. The other thing is like I'm still improving on my saddle. Like I'm getting one of the tethered platforms as well. I'm going to give that a shot.
Wait a minute, you still don't have a platform?
No, I'm still using stand on my top sticks. So I set up 2 sticks at the top, which I don't really have a problem with. Like I don't think that's a bad way to do it, but I want to try the platform.
You'll be happy you got that platform.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's going to change your
It
world.
might be a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, like way more comfortable.
One of my reasons for holding off to it is I thought part of the reason the saddle's so great is being so mobile and compact. And it's like, okay, well then I'm going to carry it, even if it's only 7 pounds, like I'm carrying an extra piece, you know? But the
You're
only
carrying
thing
an
is like I
extra
have
stick
to
now.
carry an extra, you're right. I have to carry an
Yeah.
extra stick, which limits how high I can go. And that's something I need to change moving forward is my climbing method too. I just need to do some mods and make that better. The thing with mods is it just takes time. You know, either you're going to spend a lot of money on like expensive gear, which neither one of those two things are great options for me.
I know.
But it is like I'm going to use the saddle more every year. I'm going to get better at it. And I just think it's like a really good option for people. I don't think it has to be the first thing that you go to if you're a new hunter. But I think it's not a bad option because a lot of people are going to end up there eventually. I still think it goes back to what we talked about earlier. It depends on where you hunt. If you hunt a place with a lot of tall, straight pine trees, or even if there's swamps and stuff, like cypress trees are straight here in Florida. Sweet gums are pretty straight and limbless. There's water oaks are the same way. There's just like so many tree types here that's just the way the vegetation grows. But the benefits of being able to sit in any tree and just going in and out, that to me is like my favorite part of it. Like if I need to walk between two trees, like squeeze between two trees or like crawl under some bushes or whatever, it's so much easier with the saddle than it is bringing a climber back in those type areas. Like the true run and gun thing is tough to beat it.
It is. And I'm rooting for someone to come out with a stand and stick setup that I truly like and could buy into. I mean, Lone Wolf Custom Gear came really close this year to something I think that I could buy into, but their sticks are still too long, and then the other sticks are too short. The price is high, but I can get it. Like I'm not paying for a lease. I'm public land hunting. I can afford the stand and sticks if I need to, but it's still not exactly what I want. I mean, the seat's still like the old Lone Wolf seat and the XOP seat. Like give us hunters what we want, and that's a really lightweight stand, about that size, 22 to 24 inch stick, and a good seat, and easily putting it on the tree with a Versa button type style instead of the Millennial where you got, or the Millennium, man, I'm not saying that wrong, Millennium, where you have to have the bracket. So no one's just dialed it in completely right yet. And when they do that, maybe I'll go ahead and invest and have a backup. But I'm still primarily, unless something crazy happens, always going to be a saddle guy from here on out, I'm sure.
I'm not sure. Like to me, it's like climber or saddle. Just, I feel like the hang on, like I don't know, maybe for sitting all day, it'd be better if you had a super comfortable hang on. But then you're adding like a bunch of size and stuff. It's super comfortable, you know?
Well, difference in the places we hunt, though.
Sure.
That's the main thing, I think. I think if I hunted where you hunted, I'd be a climber guy too. 100%.
What would the advantage to you of being like a really, like somebody that came up with the system you just described? Like what would the advantage of that be over the saddle?
There are times where I just want to sit down, you know?
Yeah.
Like there are times where like the leaning, maybe I can't find a real 100% comfort zone. And maybe it's the way I'm built. I do have back problems, but like there are just times where I just want to sit down.
Are you running that back strap yet?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that helps.
And I have one of those, but there's like some little nuances to getting it set. Actually, I need to do that this week before this next hunt because I think I might be using the saddle on this hunt I got coming up. So I got to get that set up. So I got to watch one of G2's videos on that, Greg Godfrey's video on that, because I'm sure I can figure it out, but I've tried to figure out in the stand while just like digging stuff out and like, oh, what's this little thing here? It'll be a lot easier to do it at that time. So
are you talking about like how to hook it up and everything?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
It's super easy to hook up. Here's the things I would tell you about using the recliner is finding the sweet spot on your back. Like if you are a leaner, I find that it's better to keep it in the low back.
Okay.
And then when I'm sitting, I move it to the high back. But don't forget, and also don't forget to adjust it when you move, because I actually popped one of the little bands off and I was able to retie it, but it was still kind of aggravating because and it was my fault. I put a lot of pressure on that sucker. And I don't know what you call that, the little tethered piece that holds the button on.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right, so what about other gear that you use this year? Anything new else that you tried new this year?
I got a faster kayak.
Yeah.
that was nice. And so I did have a kayak that I was paddling, and I would get wet going in, and it would be miserable. So that stunk. Now I have one that I actually pedal, so I don't get wet, and it's more stable. And it helped me.
Nice.
It made it more enjoyable for me to hunt.
What about the cottonwood stuff? Was that new for you this year?
Yeah, it was
Nomad?
new, and I only had the jacket.
You did.
I never had any reason to use the Dun. That jacket, like Jason told us, got me down into the teens. But I mean, I would layer up a little bit more underneath it. But man, it was legit.
That was the cottonwood jacket you're talking about.
Yeah, my favorite piece of Nomad gear, without a doubt, 100%.
So I already said I really like those attack pants, or approach pants. I think I might have called them attack earlier. They're approach pants.
I wasn't going to correct you.
Oh, you should have.
I was thinking, I was like, maybe he's right,
attack.
but I don't think they did
it's
that.
Approach.
I think someone else
those
makes
things
attacks.
held up really good. And one of the things you asked about is if, burrs and that kind of stuff, they didn't tear up at all. And I went through plenty of crap.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I really like those. So they're $100, but now you can get them for 50 if you get them off 50% off at Academy. And I'm sure there's other places that can be 50% off. By the way, if you do get them at Academy, please click the link on Hunting Gear Deals so I get paid by that. Won't cost you any extra. But I love the cotton. I didn't get to use the cottonwood until December. And that's one thing hunting in Florida. Like, I mean, maybe if you're from Florida, you don't need to get it. If you got like money burned a hole in your pocket, then do. I told my wife a couple weeks ago, it was kind of chilly. I was like, man, I would love to just put that on and wear around the house. It's like so comfortable.
It is
but
nice.
The thing is, the house was like 70. It was cold outside, but I'd been burning up. Like those, I got the bib and the jacket, and there were times where I wore both, and times where I wore just one. And I would say it needs to be low 50s at least to wear it.
Yeah,
you don't want to be wearing
a t-shirt.
If you're wearing around like 60 degrees, you're going to be sweating.
That's too much, way too much.
Yeah, and especially the pants. I would say it needs to be in the probably 40s to wear both things. But I'll tell you, like, I was so warm wearing that stuff. And the way you can, like, there's it has enough options, like with the hood and stuff. You really can regulate your temperature just with how you're wearing the jacket. So huge fan of that. So if you hunt anywhere where it gets cold and you need like a system for that, I would highly recommend it. The pockets and everything are really nice as far as like what the options are there too. The pants have a bunch of pockets, which is actually a bib, but it wears like pants. It's like pants with suspenders. And then the jacket too. Really, really comfortable. It would be a weird thing to wear out when you're not hunting, but it's comfortable enough you would.
So how about your Vortex stuff? Did it hold up pretty good this year?
So I still haven't got to use the scope yet because that's going on my muzzle loader, which, I mean, time's running out on me on that too. I need to get it sighted in. Like mounting, it's going to be easy. But the thing, like when you live in an area where I got to drive a few hours to hunt, I don't live in an area where you can just like go shoot guns all the time either. So
yeah,
and I have a hard time. Like I'm going to pay like $20 to go to a range and shoot four shots, Yep. But that might be end up what I do. Normally with my job, I was able to like drive around and go to different areas where I might be able to do that because I might drive 2-3 hours in a day. But where I'm at with work right now with me leaving is I'm not driving around by myself all the time right now. I have to figure that out.
A little weird.
But I got some 10x42 binoculars, which really sweet binoculars. Those are the Vipers. Love those things. And I have a set of 7x that I've been using, and there's definitely a big difference. I'm not sure. I really like having both. I'm not sure. We're going to have Vortex on coming up here, and I'm really interested in getting some opinions on that, like where I'd recommend for like somebody here in Florida versus other. Like 10s are great, but you lose some field of view, and also it's harder to hold them steady. So I think I might be running kind of a combination of both of those depending on where I'm hunting.
I would
it's a really
trade
nice
my
luxury
10s
to
for
have
8s
both.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have my tens because of going out west, like my Montana trip. That's
Yeah.
why I bought tens, and tens are great. I mean, I can zoom in there, but honestly, like with turkey hunting stuff, probably be just fine to back it down to some eights.
And how'd your rangefinder work?
It's tough as nails. I dropped it out of my tree stand twice, and it works great. So I didn't have to.
I think if you're gonna have a lifetime warranty on it, it better be tough, right?
Dude, I don't know how. I felt like a complete moron. Both times I almost vomited, like when I did it. Even though the warranty's still there, it's like, okay, well, it's still a really expensive rangefinder. But yeah, man, down there it works like like
Yeah.
it did. It's supposed to. So yeah, but I loved them.
So
Loved
are
'em.
there
Got
like
'em.
any major other items well, anything else we missed, like any other product stuff? I feel like we
I don't
only
think-
talked about uh the companies that we work with. I did have one other thing. I got some new snake boots, which I talked about at the beginning of the season I was going to need to. And I had lacrosse, and I switched to some mucks this year.
Yeah.
And the cross lasted me a really long time. They were the alphas. They don't make the version I had anymore, of course.
Yeah,
And then
love
I
those.
switched to some. They're the
Arrowhead.
muck. No,
Oh,
they're-
you got the okay.
no,
I got the
muck.
arrowhead.
It's something blaze. And they had the cooling thing. They weren't really cool, but neither were my. I feel like snake boots and rubber boots are not like I don't need insulated boots here in Florida very often.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it matters what kind of boots you have. When it's 90 degrees, your feet are gonna be sweating like crazy.
Yeah.
So, and they've held up for the season so far. So I feel like to make like a good evaluation on that, I can tell you they were comfortable and I can tell you they worked, but I don't feel like in one season I can compare them to the lacrosses because I really just don't. One season's not impressive to me, but they're still lasting, so they might go 5 seasons. I don't know. But I can tell you those work good, and I did find a bike, which was an important purchase for me, and it worked out really well for me. We had a podcast that was called Deer Hunting. I don't remember what the episode was, but I kind of talked about what I look for in a bike, and I got one like that, and it's worked good. Anything else for you?
You know, something I'm going to buy next year. I got to play with my brother's new purchase, and that was a Mystery Ranch treehouse bag. Dude,
Yeah.
those things are worth every stinking penny, and I will have one by next year unless I lose my job. So, and yeah, I will
That is one
definitely
thing
have
on
those.
my list this year. I'm going to be getting in the off season is a new pack, and that's one thing that's really cool about being at ATA is I got to check out a lot of different stuff, and that's one of them I checked out. I also checked out some stuff from Badlands, which they have some really sweet packs. I didn't check out the Tenzing ones. I'm kind of familiar with those from listen deals online with them and have looked at the specs and stuff. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna get, and I'll be honest, probably for the foreseeable future, I'm not gonna be buying any gear because I'm just gonna be doing reviews on stuff I want, and I think I can get it for free. So if you want to do that too, join the Hunting Gear Fanatic groups and figure out how to get part of that group with me. And hopefully I can get you some free gear too to check out. The nicer thing for me is I'm running the whole thing, so I'll get first dibs at something if I want it. But if you write solid reviews, I really think I'll have the ability to get a lot of stuff. I might not be able to get you like every $500 piece of gear you want, but if there's like some smaller stuff you need to pick up and don't have a big budget for you, but you've got some time to write, that's something we'll be able to do. So I still, just so everybody knows, a follow up on that real quick. I'm still working on getting the web dev side of that done. And it's not going to be done for the next probably month or so. But it's definitely going to happen. So, and I'm making it happen as fast as I can go. So I'm definitely looking for more people with that. Yeah. So that's Hunting Gear Fanatics group on Facebook, or just shoot me an email, mike@huntinggeardeals.com.
So, question: what if a guy like me used a piece of gear, loved it, wants to write a review on it, but it's not through Hunting Gear, your deal? Can we just submit that?
As far as like, if you just want to get it published?
Yeah, I mean, published.
Yeah.
But you didn't like hook up the deal.
Yeah. I'd love that. I mean, if you
Cool.
want to give me some free content, that would really help me out. So
I know, like,
Yeah.
guys like me that sometimes like to write and really like to write about gear. So you might find a few of those out there.
And if you're somebody that's sending me that kind of stuff, if you like to write and you're good at it and you're sending me stuff that you've already done, I will definitely work hard to try to get you some stuff that you want going forward. So, and if it definitely does not need to be coming from me. And I definitely said like 8 times.
Oh,
Sorry.
hey, speaking of hunting gear deals, it's not even turkey season. It's not even NWTF convention yet, and I've already spent about $250 on turkey gear, and it's all been on ammo and chokes. So I'm having some choke struggles. So I went ahead and bought me an Indian Creek choke tube. I can't wait to try that sucker out.
Nice. Yeah, we got turkey season coming up, so you're gonna have to start lining up those turkey guests.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need your help there.
That is true. Not long.
All right, man. Well, we're I think we're like about an hour and a half, so we probably ought to go ahead and wrap this up. But it's been a while since we got to talk, so it was good to get and talk to you for a long time.
Yeah,
Hopefully
man. It was enjoyable
listening. That's what the podcast was.
I hope so. Well, it's good talking to you, man.
Yep. And I'm sure there's some other stuff we need to catch up on later, but we'll have to do that at a later time.
Yep. We're out down south.
Well, yep, we're out down south.